deck, which also has, oh, there we go. I should have said that too. So I've done that so many times. So what you can also do is there's a link in the chat there. That's a link to the slide deck, and there's going to be some links there that you're going to need for resources. So then make sure you can open that up in another window somewhere so you can see what's going on. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at how you would build a site for your board, okay, your board of directors using Google Workspace. And the skills that you're going to learn here, you can apply this to anything. So you could create a site for your volunteers. You could create a site for your community league. You could create a site for just about anything. But specifically, this one's looking at our board. We're going to have some security behind it so that people can only see what they're supposed to see. Come on. Oh, I clicked next and it's not moving. There we go. So my name is Trevor Beck. I'm a Google Apps for Education certified trainer and innovator. So I have taken training, I've taken tests and stuff from Google. I do not work for Google. I do not get paid by Google, but I know a lot of Google stuff. I have a website there if you want to follow up with me afterwards, www.trevorbeck.ca. It's in rough shape because I haven't had a chance to update it yet. I am retiring from McEwen next week, so I will have some time this summer to clean that up. But there is a contact link in there if you wanted to follow up and ask some questions and stuff. I'm just going to take a quick look. Was anyone successful in getting TechSoup to approve? That's a good question. So here are the resources. Take advantage of Google Workplace for nonprofits. That's the session that I did last time. So if you want to watch the video there, that's my link to my YouTube channel. There's Google Help. Google has some great resources. So but if you're running into problems, not sure how to do anything, try the Google Help. They also have Google how-to guide. So for specific tasks that you're trying to approach, how to do that. And setting up a site for your volunteers is one of those guides. So you might want to take a look at that as a kind of refresher. And then my YouTube channel. I have all sorts of stuff in there on Microsoft, on Apple, on Macs, on Google. So you can find all sorts of cool stuff in there. So what I'd like you to do is if you could all just make a copy of this link. So I'm going to copy this link and put it in the chat, but you can also access it here. What this is going to do is it'll open up in a tab a document, our working document. It's kind of got all the information on that we're going to be covering today. And in that document, if you have a Google account that you're logged in with right now, you can go under File and you can make a copy of it. If you don't have a Google account open right now, you can go under File and download a copy as either Word or PDF. I would suggest using Microsoft Word. You can then make edits to it and update it for your own use later on. But this is basically what we're going to be working with. So I hope everyone's able to get a copy of that. So the board of directors, let me show you what we're going to try and work on and create. So I have this website that has this board of directors. Only the members of my board can see this website. They're the only ones that can access it. There's only 2 of us that actually can go in and make edits and changes because we know what we're doing. But everyone else, it's pretty much just a one-stop shop for board directors to come in to find the links and information to what they commonly are asking for. Things like what's on the agenda. So we actually have a calendar that we've created. And there's all these different dates in there. And as the user goes in and looks under here, there's all the information of when is it, where is it, a description, some notes and stuff. And if I go into the more details, it'll pop this open using Google Calendar, and you will see links to the agenda and the minutes. So we can have that all together. So when someone says, you know, as an administrator, you get this email, what did we talk about last meeting? I wasn't there. Or what's on the agenda for next week? You just send them to your website because that's where all that information is going to be. So that's one thing we're going to look at today. Creating documents. We're going to look at Google Drive. Now, right now, a lot of people are using shared folders, using a Gmail account. If you watch the session from last time, it'll show you why that is not the best way to do it. You should actually get a Google account for your domain, so for your organization, and all your files belong to that organization. So as people come and go, as people create files, they belong to the organization, they don't disappear. When you're using a personal Gmail account, guess what? I create the file, I own it. If I decide that you've pissed me off, or else I've just decided I don't know what I'm doing, I delete the file, it's gone. Even though it's in a folder you may have created, I created the file, it's under my name. So that's the big advantage of working with the shared, with Google Workplace for nonprofits. All the files are owned by the organization, and people can come and go all they want, but the files are owned and can only be deleted by the org. Last thing, we're going to look at the communication that goes through. So we are actually going to use a kind of like a mailing list, and Google's going to look after all the emails, keeping track of that. So again, as an administrator, or sorry, as an admin person or a secretary, whatever position you want to call it, that's one of the things that is going to be taken care of. And with each of these items that we've just looked at are 3 different tools. We're going to go through how to work with those 3 different tools and then bring them all together and make this nice little cake that we've got created. So that's what that board of directors is. And like I said, we'll be doing that ourselves. So the steps we're going to start off with is we're going to create a Google group. The Google group is kind of the base of everything. This is where that communication is going to be from, but it's also how we share the files and share the calendar and share the site. Rather than using all 5 names or 10 names or 15 names, and as they change out, you have to readdress, share this folder with a new person. We're going to do it with the Google group. 1 email is all we need, and you add people as you need to. Nothing else changes. It automatically just updates and says, yep, give this person access. We're going to then create a Google Calendar just so that we have something in place to show when our meetings are, or what our regular meetings. It could be our annual general meeting, whatever. But these are the files that your board's going to be using on a day-to-day basis. Then we'll look at the shared drive, as I mentioned before, and finally bring it all together in a Google site. No, we're not going to look at that. Whoops, we're not going to look at that. Stop. You weren't supposed to play that. Bad computer. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is let's go look at this document here. So here's our document. Look good, there's a number of people there. And so we're going to start off at the very beginning with Google Groups. Now, one of the things about working within a Google Groups for nonprofit is you have an administrator that takes on all the things that Google normally does. So this administrator is going to be responsible for creating the email accounts for all your positions. So you're not going to create an email account for Trevor at KiniskiGardens.org. You're going to create president at, vice president at, secretary, memberships, whatever. So they're tied to titles. And as people come and go, they just take over that account and the title. The admin person is the one that's going to create those accounts up and are going to be able to assign them to different users as they come and go. The next thing that the admin person is going to do is enable groups for business. By default, when you go in your personal account and you go to Google Groups, you are using Google Groups, a tool that is maintained by Google. So if I create a group called Kiniski Gardens or Kiniski Gardens Board, let's say, and I leave, and then someone else comes along and goes, oh, well, Trevor's gone. I don't know how the password from him. I'll just try and contact Google to get access. Well, Google's got hundreds, if not thousands of requests like that a day. And you're going to have to go through all these steps to prove that you should be taking over, that you aren't someone just trying to be a pain. So that's one of the advantage that we do with using the admin side of things. And I'm just going to show it just so if your admin person's around, you can show them so they know, because not all admins understand where it is. But I'm going to go, oops, what do they call it again? Sorry, I have a brain lock every once in a while. Groups for business. Okay. So I'm in my admin account. And all they have to do is search for groups for business. So they're setting for groups for business, and they turn that on. So it's not on by default. They have to turn that on. So your administrator needs to turn that on. And I'll show you what that's going to do in a minute here, why we want to turn that on. And if they want, they can turn off the Google Groups. That's the public stuff. I would leave it on because you never know. You might want to work with people outside of your organization. So this is the big one, though. Enable Google Groups for business. So open up a new tab here and type in groups.google.com. So groups.google.com. And again, if you can't keep up with me and stuff like that, just, you can watch the recording afterwards. I will stick around afterwards. And, if anyone wants to talk about it, we can. But for the most part, you're going to have a recording. So, you can pause and start and stop there. All right. So let's say that we belong to a community league and they're called the Peanut Gallery. And so we need to create the board for the Peanut Gallery. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create this group here. Am I not sharing my screen?
No.
When did that stop?
Oh, sorry, Trevor. I thought that you wanted us all to just be on the shared doc. Yes. Could you share your screen?
I thought I was. It says I'm sharing. Hang on, I'll turn it off again.
Thanks for that, Nicole.
Why didn't someone say something like 5 minutes ago? Oh, now I have to go. So you didn't see this part here.
We were following along through the link.
Oh,
on
okay. All right. Quick recap then in minutes. My apologies. My screen says it was sharing. All right. So here's the Panda website, just as an example. There's the website only available to members. There is going to be the calendar of the board of directors. And I mentioned before, if they click on that, they're going to get this screen that opens, and there is the meeting, that actual meeting, and there's links to the two documents, the agenda and the minutes. I'm going to close that. Then the second part we're going to look at is creating a shared drive, and that's going to be embedded here on this piece here. And then finally, we got the email archive, which is what we're kind of working on right now. Okay, so let's try that again. Thank you for someone, but please don't be afraid to come off mute and say, Trevor, you dummy, it's not, I don't understand what you're talking about. All right, so let's start again. Very bottom there is the groups. So Peanut Gallery, I'm going to create a new group here, and I'm going to call it just Peanut and then board, because it's the board of directors for the Peanut Gallery. Now down here is the email, so I can give it whatever name I want. So I'm just going to we'll call it Peanut Gallery Board, Peanut Gallery Board, just to give it a proper name. It's given me an email address and that builds from there. I don't have to use that. I can actually just go Peanut Board. I like that better, nice and short. But take a look here. This is the important part. So right now we're in my training site that I have, and then my domain is called gtrainerdemo.trevorbeck.ca. So that's like your community league website. When I create this, it's going to be created under me and under my group. If I don't have this turned on, I'm going to see googlegroups.com instead. If I create it with @googlegroups.com, that means Google is now the administrator. They're the only ones that can reset it. They're the only ones that could go in and add a new user to it and stuff like that. So that's why we want to make sure with Google Workplace for nonprofits, when we have access to that, this is one of the advantages, is that we are in control. So I'm going to select this here. I can put a description what it is, but it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to hit next. Now, it's going to go through and give you some stats. I'm not going to sit here and go through each of the individual ones, because I mean, hey, you guys can read just as easy as I can. But there is those help links, and they will go through and talk some of the stuff. And I do want to go through and talk about some of the big stuff here is who can search for the group. So when it says entire organization, it means your community league, and you may only have 10 people using it. So is it okay if it's available to everyone? Sure, it doesn't matter. It only means they can see it, doesn't mean they can access it. Who can join? Well, we're going to change this, because let's say that I create board members, but maybe I do create an account for Trevor or for whatever else. And so I have these other accounts there. I don't want them to be able to just join and willy-nilly. We're going to set this to only invited users. So someone with an admin level can do that. Who can view conversations? Well, this could be very private, so we only want the group members. Who can post? Only the group members. Who can view other members? Only the group members is good. I can now add group members. So this is where you would add president at or vice president at or whatever. In my case, I'm going to add Barney. Whoops, I'm going to add Barney. So Barney Rubble is going to be a member of my group. He's not a manager. I can put a message in there, but I don't really worry about it. And then I'm going to create this group. So it's creating my group right now. And there's telling me there's a Peanut Gallery board, and there's 2 members right now, and I can go to the group. And you can see it here. If I go to groups.google.com, there's the list there. So I'm going to go to this group, and there's some settings in here. So I'm just going to kind of go down these really quickly here. We'll go to members here. So there's all the members of the group. You can add new members. You can go into here and remove members. You can do all sorts of stuff. I belong to, there's a bunch of Google trainers. There's about 4,000 or 5,000 of us now worldwide that have a Google group like this. And so in the past, I've worked with the guys and I've been a manager to go in and maintain adding people, removing, blocking, that kind of stuff. So that's something you could do, is you could create a group for your volunteers. Hey, not a problem. Put all their emails in there, and it's just like a mailing list, right? That's the important thing. We'll talk more about that in a second. I'm going to skip through the rest of this stuff. Our about there just gives us some information, who can see it and stuff like that. Then we'll go to group settings, because this is the important part. So this is kind of a repeat of what was there before. The big things that I want to just kind of focus on: do you allow external members? Well, ideally, if you're using this for your board and you have these different positions created already, then no, you don't need it to be available outside. But if you do create a volunteer group, then yes, it needs to be available outside. And then you're going to take a look at these same kind of things. Who can view conversations, who can post, who can view members. Viewing members, maybe I don't want everyone to see everyone else. That's a FOIP issue, right? So I would say only the group managers can see everyone's email and stuff like that. You can go through, there's some more stuff, either display the name or the organization. That's not a big deal. This is the other one I always play with. Allow email posting or allow web posting. So remember, the way a mailing list works is I have this email, which we saw before, which was peanut gallery at gtrainer, at trevorbeck.ca. Anytime I email that email, anytime I send an email to that address, it's going to Google first. Google says, okay, I'm going to take this message. I'm going to keep a copy of it. Then I'm going to look at all the members of this group and send the email out to them. When someone replies, it comes back to Google. Google says, okay, great. I got this information and it's tied to this message here. I'm now going to take that and send it all out to the members of the group. The question is, do you want to allow email posting? And what that means is, can I post from my email? And depends where you come from, right? On my group of 5,000, we say no, we do not do email posting, because the problem is people hit reply. When they hit reply, you know how you've got the quote from the previous message there, and you know how it's like 15 deep sometimes? Well, that gets posted. So that just becomes just a huge pain when you've got 3,000 to 5,000 people posting and there's a string 20 of these things long. So we basically turned that off and said, no, if you want to reply, you have to come to the website here, Google, groups.google.com, and post through the website. Conversation history, if it's not turned on, make sure you turn it on. It's just that thing where you've got the first email and then indented are all the subsequent replies and conversations afterwards. Works really easy. So those are the big things that I really want to point out with these emails. So I'm going to go back to my group here, and there's my peanut gallery. So I'm going to start a conversation from here. And basically my subject is going to be, for the peanut gallery, what to play at the party. And then I'm going to put a message here. Hey, what should we play? I'm not going to type it all out. It's just easier to do this. And then I'm going to post that message. So what happens now is the message now gets posted to Google right here at the board. It's then sent out to everyone else. So it's going to be sent out to Barney and whoever else is the member. Barney can reply and it'll come back into here. So let me just show you what that looks like over here on my Panda Fox, which is the same thing. So I'm just going to open up this group. Whoops, come on, try again. So there it is. You can see Fred had bingo fundraiser as the first thing. And there were 14 different 14 messages in that whole conversation. So Fred was the initial message. Barney replied, then Trevor replied, then Fred replied again. Comes to Google first, everyone gets emails. The beauty of this is that this is searchable. So anytime someone goes, oh, you know what? Trevor sent me that stuff about a year ago. It was really kind of cool. What the heck is that? Well, you just come here and search it. Bang, it's there. You can find it. As the secretary, you don't have to keep copies of all those emails because Google's doing that. You do have to keep a copy if someone sends the email directly to Trevor or directly to the secretary, because that's kind of circumventing the the group there. But anything goes to the group and you keep the conversations there. And I recommend you do that. Try and keep as much there as possible. Then that works great. You've got a string of history there. And anytime someone else new comes along, they can go through, do a search, look at previous conversations, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and me just gonna check here. Any questions on any of that? I'm trying to find, where's my chat window? Come back.
No questions on that,
Okay.
Trevor, but there was a little bit of chatter just around the email address name, some good points made. So maybe just take a quick read of that.
I'm trying to get my window. I forgot I put it down at the bottom so I wouldn't be in my way. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this up. Let me take it off the screen so it's not being displayed here. Doing a hybrid, some names, and using alias for the roles. I would do it the other way around. Okay, so what they're saying is with emails, you can do like I can put down president, and then I can have a nickname, Trevor. They both go to the president. Like all the emails will still go to that same one account. But I would make the positions primary. And if you need to create those aliases, then make the aliases secondary. Because as people come and go, everyone's going to be looking for president, vice president, whatever. And it's really easy to go in and reassign that. And if you want, after this session, we can chat a bit more about that. But because it's a rotating door and people come and go all the time, do not use people's names. Use those positions. It just makes sense. Aliases based on, okay. I've had a time with role-based emails, transferring them, especially because Google seems to keep the original name associated with the role-based. So even I'm gonna have to. Okay, so someone asked there about emails coming from Andrew. I'm not sure what that means, but again, like I said, if you start with the role, then it's always going to come from president. And one of the things you do, and I'm not going to talk about today, but when you've got those emails and stuff, it's important as new people come in, you go in and in the background it says, okay, here's president, who's supposed to look after it. That's where you change and update the email address and stuff. Because then it sends a message to that new person that says, hey, you're now the president and I need you to reset the password. Because there's nothing worse from a security standpoint of former President Trevor saying, hey, Jenny, take over as president. Here's the password. Anytime I can still go in and I can make a mess if I want, because I have the password. So that's a strategy. If you want, we can chat afterwards, but it's not really germane to what we're doing here. But yeah. So we've gone in here now. We've got our Google group. That's the first thing we said. Okay. So the next thing we're going to take a look at then is, let me just make sure I have this in here. We're going to look at shared drives. And oh, by the way, what you can do here, here's the email, the group email and add users. What I would do is I would, especially if you've got new people that are looking after this, go in and grab the email for all of these things. So for example, the group access, this is the group access, copy that URL there and then paste that in here. That's the group access if anyone needs to get into there. What's the email address? Well, that's part of that group settings. We know it's peanut board at whatever the G-Trainer, whatever the URL, copy that, put that into here. Excuse me. You can, as the administrator, could assign someone to add users. So I could say, you know what, so-and-so is pretty up to speed and knows what they're doing. I'm going to create a specific role in the admin side of things. And the only thing they can do that's special is add new people to the group or something. So I would go in and under members here, I would grab that URL and paste it in there. And remember, you can see here, I'm an owner and Barney's a member, but I can change him to owner right away. Then he can go in at any point in time and add new users if you need to. So that's what I would do, is just have that all somewhere so that you can refer to it. And if, as new people come and go, you've got all that data together. Okay, we don't share passwords. Oh, good to hear, Nicole. I've so many people, it's like, oh, we have to, I'll pass it on. Shared drives. So I'm going to go back to my Google groups, or it could be from anywhere, but up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see what they call the app launcher, or some of us, we call it the waffle. If you click on that, we're going to go into Drive. You could also just type in drive.google.com. That does the same thing. So I'm still logged in on my account. You can see there, it's my training account I'm with here. We're not going to do folders. We're going to do shared drives. And in this session today, we're not going to talk about how do I reassign ownership and stuff like that. That's a whole conversation on its own. But we're going to talk about, there's a shared drive we're going to create. So I go to shared drive, I'm going to create this new shared drive, and it's going to call it the Peanut Gallery. Whoops. Oh, I think I skipped a section, didn't I? I'm going to create this anyways. Let me just go back. Did I? Oh, no. Okay, we're going to do it that order. So I've gone and I've created this shared drive, not a shared folder, a shared drive. I'm going to go into here and I'm going to create a new folder. And in it, I'm going to call this Board Web Assets. So basically, this is the Board of Governors shared drive, but there's a folder here that I want all the member of the boards to have access to. Okay, I don't want them to have access to everything in here, and I'll show you why in a minute. But I just want to create this board here, and that's in that board assets. That's where, when I open this up, I'm going to create all the folders and stuff. So I'm going to have my agendas and minutes. So there's a folder there, and I can put all my stuff in there. I'm going to have my policies. And there was something else I was going to have in there, and I can't remember off the hand. So we'll just stick with that for now. But all the folders you want people to have access is going to be inside this board web assets. So I'm just going to go back a level. Watch this. I want all those board members. Let's say there's 20 of them. Let's say there's 30 of them. I want them all to have access to this. Now, if I go right click, I can share. And typically what will happen is someone will go in here and start adding each name of those 30 people. So now you've got 30 names individually. The problem is that what happens when Bob leaves? Now you have to take Bob out or do it. Ideally, that shouldn't happen because you're using president, vice president, and all that, and they should stick there and it shouldn't change. But sometimes it does. But watch this. I'm going to go and it says add people and groups. We just created a group. What's that group called? It was called the Peanut Board right there. So the Peanut Gallery board. So I'm just going to say, go ahead and I'm going to notify them. Let's talk briefly about rights and access. I want everyone to have access and be able to view all the files that are in that folder. And because these are board members and they might need to make comments on stuff, I'm going to say, you know what, you can comment on anything because it doesn't wreck the original. It just means you can make comments and stuff. So quite often I will do commenter. So that means any file that I create, excuse me, all my board members have the ability to go in and leave comments and suggested texts and stuff, which is really good when you're doing the collaboration. So I'm going to let all of them in there. So watch what happens here. I'm going to hit send. You'll see this little icon show up here. This now means that that board member, all the members of that board have access to that. Now, remember we had Barney as part of the member there. So I'm just going to pull up Barney here real quickly. And I'm going to go into Google Drive. I'm just going to do. Oh, and you can see there's the first email I sent because Barney's part of that email. Let's go into Drive, drive.google.com. And where is it? Peanut Gallery. Oh, I did it a little bit differently here. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna do this instead. I'll add them here at the top level. Peanut board. And can view everything. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. And we'll notify them. So watch this. Now remember, all I haven't added Barney, I just added the Peanut Gallery there, right? So let me just do a quick refresh here. Open my shared drive. There's the Peanut Gallery board. It's the same thing. So all the, because I used that group email, Peanut Gallery or Peanut Board at G Train or Trevor, because Barney is part of that, he now gets access to that. As I add new users to that group or remove users from that group, they will get access or lose access to the stuff that's in there. So that's why I said the nice thing about it is with the groups is it's kind of like, I call it the unsung hero of the Google Suite, but by putting in all the names in there and making all these connections ahead of time, I don't have to go back at any point in time and add new names here and the folder here and over here and stuff. As long as I'm using that email address that we talked about and just update that and maintain that. Does that make sense to everyone? Did I lose screen sharing? Can you guys still see my screen?
We can see it. Yep.
Okay, good. It still says, yeah.
Yeah, there was just one. Dave got it back. He just had a moment.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, all good.
I thought I lost it. Okay, so we now have a Google group. We now have a shared drive. And in the shared drive, we've got the shared drive everyone can view. I've set this folder up here so everyone can comment. And if I wanted to, I can go and pick and choose who has edit access. So for example, the agenda and the minutes, I'm going to add a bunch of documents there. I have a secretary position. I don't want that. I want that person to be able to edit. I don't need anyone else to edit, right? So in here, I can add that exception to the rule because my rule right now is everyone can comment. But I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I've got this other person in here. So Barney's part of the group. And Barney can actually go in and become a contributor, which means that they can make files. So you see how I'm building this, where we start at the very basic of the general rule. And then as we build stuff in different folders, we have exceptions to the rule. So editing exceptions and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense to everyone? I see Jenny. So, I mean, I'll assume there's a thumbs up.
And,
okay.
And remember, feel free to jump into the chat or unmute at any time.
And let me just go back over to here and talk about managing rights and stuff. So right now at the top level here, I've made them a viewer. And I said that I can do commenter. Oh, this is new. Okay, I like this. This is new. So I made them a commenter. So that means that they can make comments in the spreadsheets, in the Word documents, whatever. I can also make some people contributors. So a contributor can go in, they can add files, they can edit files, they can rename files, they cannot delete files, they cannot move files. So if you have someone who's very organized, they might go through and get the agenda folder and stuff like that. You as a regular board member, you only need the contributor mode. You do not need to be able to move files and delete files. You don't need to give your whole board that because quite frankly, half of them probably aren't comfortable with using these tools. And I've seen so many people delete files on everyone. So you're better off to say, okay, what role do you need to do your work? For most people, it's to edit files and to add new files. That's it. So, okay. I would give that role to most people, depending on what folder I'm in and stuff. I can also assign a content manager. So that might be someone with a little more savvy in there because they can add and edit, but they can also move files and delete files. So they've got more power there. So again, you're not going to necessarily give that to someone that's not comfortable yet. You could start them off here, then move them onto there. And then finally, the manager is someone that really knows what they're doing because they are going to be able to manage all the content, all the people, so they can actually add new users and stuff, and then change the settings or even delete that shared drive and all the files in it. All right. So there's more information down here that talks to you about what those roles are and how they act. Really suggest that you take a look at that, think about it. Only give access to the level of what they actually need. I've had so many people come to me and say, oh, I need to be a manager. Why? Well, because I'm a manager. Yeah, but you don't know what you're doing. So you know what? You don't get manager access. And I've done that at my job. So it just protects your data. It just protects everything and everyone else. So that's the sharing access when working with a shared drive. Just as a quick FYI, if someone does delete something, it goes into this trash. This trash is here for 30 days and then it gets deleted. So if someone accidentally deletes something, there's a 30-day grace period for anybody on the team that's got edit access and can move files to go there and recover that file. So that's another reason why I like using the shared drives. It doesn't actually delete it and it's gone. All right, so let me just double check our notes here. So we did a share drive, we created, we did the web app. So we just talked about review, we talked about deletion, we added a group, and we created folders and mentioned how you can edit access as needed. Okay, good. So that's the second item. Next thing we're gonna do is look at calendars. Calendars, again, we can go into our settings in the waffle or type in calendar.google.com, is all the same thing. I'm just gonna pop over here because I had it set up and open already. And I'm gonna close this here. So right now, when we look at these things, it will not look like this. You will have the name, it'll say president or vice president, whatever the name of the account is. But if you start adding stuff in there, that's intended for the president. The president might be doing meetings and stuff that have nothing to do with the board. So it's important to keep those separate. That's the president, that's his or hers calendar. So we're going to create an additional calendar specifically for the board and all of their activities as a group.
Trevor, I'm just going to draw your attention. Just there's a quick question I don't want you to breeze past because I think we'll move on from it. Just asking from Chantel. Can we add emails from our current system as emails? Do you want to, I don't know, can you clarify that, Chantel?
I'm not understanding that. Do you want to come off mute and tell me what you mean?
Well, like for instance, we have a whole bunch of emails from the 20 past years or whatever, and can we add them to this system? Oh,
okay. So you're saying you might have email stored in Outlook or Gmail or something that's not part of your new domain. Is that what you mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Yes, you can. It's a little bit of a long process. There is an admin tool, but I've never actually used it because it's usually meant for one company migrating to another company. But there is information. It's actually kind of easy. It's not something I want to talk about right now because it's not dealing with this. But basically, if you have an app like, give me a second, Apple Mail or Outlook can't do it. Firefox has Thunderbird. Thunderbird is an email client. And what you do is I will log in with my personal email account. I will log in with my new org account. I can see the files from one from the other. I can actually drag from one to the other. So you can actually click and drag it and it'll copy it from your personal Gmail account over to the other account. So it does take time, but I mean, yeah, you can definitely do it. We can, and if you want, reach out afterwards or stick around afterwards and we can talk a bit more about it. It's like, it's a little more convoluted than that, but really, that's pretty much what it is. Open the two accounts in the same place, start clicking and dragging.
Some good tips in the chat too from other leagues that have done it. So great question.
Oh, good. I can't wait to read those afterwards. All right, calendars. So let's go in here. So we're going to create a calendar. So down at the bottom here, it says add other calendars. We're going to create a new calendar. So this, again, this calendar belongs to the organization. So we're going to go into here. And I'm going to call this Peanut Gallery Board. Set the time in there and then create the calendar. And there's my peanut gallery. I'm just going to click on that. And then here's all the settings now. So let's take a quick look through some of them. Oh, make it a little bit bigger so we can all see it. Do we want to make this available to the public? No. Do we want to make this calendar available to the rest of the org? No. So we're going to turn that off. Excuse me. I'm going to need someone to help me manage this. I don't want to be the only person managing it. So I am going to add other people. So I'm going to add a couple of people. First, I'm going to add the peanut board because this is who it's for. So there's my peanut gallery board. I'm going to add them. And the only thing I'm going to let them do is see the events because it's either going to be me as the president and the secretary position. We're the only ones that are going to be adding to this. We're the only ones scheduling stuff. So everyone else just needs to see it. So the peanut gallery there is going to see it. So I'm going to click on that. And members of the peanut gallery will get a message saying, hey, you've been added to this calendar. It's available for you to see. I'm now going to add another user here. So I'm going to say Barney, who's a part of the group. He actually is going to have some more. He can make changes to events. And so he can actually schedule stuff. And I can have 3 or 4 people if I want to do that. That doesn't matter. Not going to worry about all this because this is the stuff that we are going to throw, this calendar we're going to throw onto our website. Okay. So there's a public URL, but because we've turned that public URL off up top here, remember we said we're not making it available, it's not going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this where it says get shareable link. We're going to come back to that. And that's where we're going to grab this link and put it in our website. So I've gone and created my calendar. It's pretty straightforward. And when I go back here, you'll see I now have a calendar called Peanut Gallery. Quick tip. If you're going through and you can go here, let's say I've got a bunch of these things selected. By default, when I create something, it's going to create in my personal calendar. Okay. So, and you can see right there. So there's two things to do. If I click on that, I can go into here and say, no, assign it to the Peanut Gallery calendar. So it's one way of doing it. The easiest way that I like is I'll go into the Peanut Gallery here to the three dots and I say display only this one. Now, when I go in and make an appointment, it's for the Peanut Gallery and only that. You can go through, you can add Google Meet video conferencing, which is a great tool. You should not be paying for Zoom or anything else because it's a great meeting tool to have that in there. So the link's going to be built in automatically. As we talked about before, you can go in and let's say I've got agendas created in that. I click on here, I go into my Google Drive, I find the documents for the agenda for next week. So I'll just use, do I have an agenda document? No. So I'm just going to put this one here. We're going to talk about this at the meeting. So I'm going to insert that and I'm going to put all the different files I need. Then I can go ahead and invite people in there. So actually, I'm just going to create this here real quick. So test calendar, invite, and I'm going to hit save. Does that make sense so far, everyone? We got these calendars. All right.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you. So we now have a Google group with our emails. We now have a shared drive. We now have a calendar. Let's put it all together. So I'm going to go into my shared drive here, and I'm going to create a new file. Now notice by default, you'll see docs, sheets, slides, forms. Sometimes forms shows up, sometimes it doesn't. But there's a more down here, and there's other things you can create, drawings, maps. And what we're looking for is Google Sites. So I'm going to create a Google site here. Pretty straightforward. It comes up here. There's different themes, so you can pick different themes. You can even create your own theme and make custom font sizes and stuff. I'm just going to go and use Vision because why not? I like Vision. Actually, I'm going to use Impression. I like Impression better. All right. So those three elements, it's just a matter of inserting them now. So let's start off with the first one. The first thing is going to be the calendar, right? So let's go back to our calendar here for a second. Where to go? Calendar. There we are. So there's my Peanut Gallery. I'm going to go into my settings. And I'm going to get this shareable link here. And notice it says, with this link, only people you allow can access your calendar. And that's these people that these people here. So I'm going to take this and you can either click embed here and just punch in and put in the stuff, or else you can double click and it's the same controls, right? That just makes it handy. You don't have to drag your cursor all the way over there. But I'm going to put in my calendar. So I'm going to embed the calendar there. Oh, I'm going to come back to this. I had problems with this the other day. I'm going to come back to the calendar. So imagine, if you will, it worked, but it will. Let's go to the next one. Google Drive. I'm going to open up Google Drive here. We're in a shared drive. There is the Peanut Gallery. Where'd it go? Peanut Gallery. Come on. I'll open that up. Remember this web assets? I just select it and I insert it. And there, and you can see you can move it around, you can resize it, but there is the same thing. Come on, redraw. This here is the same thing as going into the shared drive right there. Same thing here. So when I add, I'm going to add a Google Doc here real quickly, and I'll call it puppies. Puppies. There we go. I'll close that. So there's puppies in there. Let's go to my site. I just need to do a quick refresh on it. And there's puppies. It's the same thing. And when the users click on it, it basically will open it up in a new window here. So shared drive, you can over the side here, I can put in some text. I can put in some instructions. If you want to add to the agenda, please email admin@megroup.com, whatever the name of your organization is. So that'll send an email to the secretary or the administrator. All right, so there's your first part. What's next? Well, we're going to throw in that conversations. So I'm going to go into here. We're going to embed. We're going to go find that chat. Not this, but I want to actually go up to, go back to my groups. I always have a problem. This is peanut gallery. This here, I want to grab that URL, come to my site, hit insert. There we go. Same thing. Okay. I would put in a piece of text here. It says to message the group, send email to peanut board at whatever my group name is .org. So it make it easy for them to be able to communicate here. And so anytime, well, yeah, that's peanut gallery. So there's all that group stuff in there. Seems to be some extra stuff. I'll have to refresh that. So there's all my groups there. So it's just going to grab, you can see the two members. You can open this stuff up. It's just a window to that thing there. All right, let me go back to the calendar because I made this mistake earlier today and let me find the right link because I was doing, which link is it? Was it this one? Public URL? No, I didn't think so. Oh, 1 second. I'm embedding again. There we go. So there's the URL. So the calendar link that we want, where'd it go? Come back here. Calendar link I want is this public URL to the calendar. That's what we're going to grab. So we've got all this stuff embedded in here. Nobody can see these elements here unless they've been granted permission. And the permission is you must be part of the board. You must be a member of the board. We are also, so that's this part here. But right now we haven't changed the website itself. So imagine it's a bucket and we've got little windows to all this other data in there. Well, we need to make changes to here. So I'm just going to give this a quick name, Peanut Gallery board. You'd think I'd be able to type it easier by now. Peanut Gallery board. And we're going to look at sharing setup. So I'm going to go and look at publish. Who can view my site? Anyone at Trevor's training site. So anyone at the org. No, we don't want that. We're going to go into here and we've changed it so that the peanut, who has access? Well, some of this is becoming in because this file is stored in that shared drive. So remember we, at the shared drive level here, we said anyone that's in here has comment access. You can't comment on a website, so you get view access. So the gallery, or sorry, the members of the board can view this, but I don't want, when it's published, I want it restricted. Restricted mean only those people that have access can see it. So let's go ahead and publish this. And from the drop down here, there's my published site. So there's my URL here. So I'm just going to grab this URL. So I can see it here. Barney, who's part of this group, when I go into here, he'll be able to see it. Excellent. And I'm going to use an incognito window. This basically is a special window that's not logged in. So it's not logged into Google. It's like a fresh virgin document. And watch what happens when I try and view it, the website. It says, oh, no, you can't just come in. You have to authenticate to be in here. You know what? We have Barney here in the group, and we're going to remove Barney out of our group. So we're going to go to our members here. Barney's left. Again, we would normally talk about president, vice president. So you wouldn't manage it here. You would leave it as president and vice president. And then in the admin side of things, you would remove access. But just so you can see, I'm going to go into here and remove Barney. I'm going to remove him. Where to go? There's this, not ban. There we are. Remove. It came out with these new icons and I always get mixed up. And now watch what happens when I refresh this page. Nope. Barney, you're not part of the group anymore, so you do not get access. That's it. That's how we take those 3 different elements, build on them, make them work together, and then put them into the Google site. The biggest important thing, of course, as I mentioned before, is that Google group. And ideally, you could build this with a Gmail, like using your Gmail account. You could do that. The problem is, like I've said before, if the president, who happens to be the owner and created this, leaves, if you don't have it backed up and someone else already marked as an owner, if you don't have a transition plan and stuff, you're going to lose access. So now you have to go back to all these different elements and rebuild them all with a different group that you have to create. So again, this is one of the advantages of working with Google for Nonprofits and having access to that service. Okay, questions. Switching the domains, we just start fresh. Yeah, you can do that too. We'll talk a bit about that later. I just want to get through the build your website component here, and then we can talk some other stuff. Migration tool, we'll chat about that. Much better than did it. Okay. Any other questions about what I've covered?
You probably said it before, but is it free?
So Google Workplace for Nonprofits is free if you are, if what's the word I want? If you qualify. So if you watch the other video, it'll go through it. Basically, the process is you have to have a nonprofit license or nonprofit number. So the city of Edmonton or Alberta, I think it's Alberta, has a certificate that you get as a certified nonprofit, your certification ticket. You go to TechSoup. TechSoup is an organization here in Canada. They basically are kind of going through and doing the initial triage to make sure that you actually have all your paperwork together, that you are a qualified member of the nonprofits and stuff. And once they've reviewed you and said, yep, you're good to go, here's this secret passcode, you would then go to Google and give it to Google. Google would say, what's your passcode? You give them the passcode, and then they will set you up with the tools and stuff.
Okay, thanks. I'll watch the old video.
I was gonna say,
one.
oh, sorry,
so
I was
one
gonna
last thing.
say, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, one last thing. You also need to have a domain. Okay, so if you're just using Facebook or something like that, that's not going to fly. They want an actual
we have a domain.
Yeah, okay, sure. Sorry, go ahead, Jenny.
I was just going to say really quick, if you didn't attend last time and you want me to send you that follow-up email, because we broke down, we have the recording in there and then a few tips specifically around that, maybe just message me and I'll make sure you get that old, or you know what, I'll just put it a link to the old stuff in this follow-up email. That's what I'll do. That'll be easier. Okay, moving on. Sorry, Trevor.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Great,
Any other
thanks,
questions?
Jenny.
So all I'm going to say is, I mean, you know, if you've got email set up with your domain provider and stuff like that, or your provider, you can still stay with that and use Google Drive and all the rest of it. But why would you? Because the Gmail, like the mail component of Google Workplace, it's got so much money and stuff behind it, because you're basically using the same tools that other organizations pay for. So you've got the security in there. You've got the ability to forward messages. You've got built-in chat. So, and by chat, I mean like Facebook Messenger. Well, there's called Google Chat. I mean, it's like Messenger, and it's built right in. And sometimes, you know, once you get comfortable with all these tools, I go to the next level and I say, okay, let's stop using email except for certain things and use the chat function instead. So when we were coordinating all this stuff, rather than going back and forth on email and cluttering up our email, Jenny and I were using Google Chat just because it was a lot easier. Just like, you know, using Messenger or excuse me, or you're on your phone, your message tool or whatever, but it's just a lot easier. You can add links, you can add stuff, you can do smiley faces and blah, blah, blah. So there's all sorts of great tools in there. And some of the best tools are Google Forms. because Google Forms, people fill it out, the data goes into a spreadsheet. If you haven't watched the video from last time, because I go through how you can do a volunteer request and how you can assign positions to volunteers and stuff using a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets, if you're like most of the people and you're like me, it's like, ooh, numbers, ugh, don't like it. But when you start looking at data, I can take 500 names and I can easily go through and quickly organize and assign positions to people and be done in, if it's 100 names, I could be done in 10 minutes, easy, no problem.
Oh, if we only ever had 100 volunteers.
Good point. Sorry, I work at McEwen. We have a few, sometimes for our open houses, we have a couple hundred. So imagine, like, we have to assign those positions. So this has come in handy. Okay. Jenny, I know you're recording right now. I don't know if you want to stop the recording because there's a couple of comments
Sure.
that aren't related to this that I'd like to talk about. So